Gary Parrish, welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you're not yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. The biggest story in college basketball this weekend, I think, was Dan Hurley throwing out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. In other words, things are really slow right now, but we still need to get some words from our partners, like Anderson Cooper and Jeremy Renner.
Already? No.
Sylvester Stallone, Knuckles. No, not trying to queue up a just trying to.
Sure.
You dare me to? I'll do it right now.
Listen. Nada's wrapping up his honeymoon. Shouts to our wonderful pod leader, Debo, who is running the board now. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to the break 45 seconds in.
No. I'll do it. I know they tell you not to, but I will. I don't care. No, I was just justifying our presence.
Okay.
Hey, we're not just here for no reason. We got to get some words from our part. We got to pull our weight around here, Norlander.
Yeah.
We got to pull our weight. So with that in mind, we got a Mailbag episode in advance of Peach Jam. We're both going to be attending Peach Jam later this week, although we haven't talked to each other about it. When are you going?
Oh. Here's the thing. We haven't talked about it. I am not just going to Peach Jam. So I'm going to Adidas First, which is in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And then I will be at Peach Jam on Friday. So I will be in Rock Hill, which is like 2 and change north of North Augusta, South Carolina. And then I'm coming down to Peach Jam. Coaches, I think, can start evaluating on Thursday. So we'll rendezvous eventually. When do you get into Peach Jam?
Thursday night. Except I feel like this is not appropriate. Let me tell you what happened to me. I booked my flight. It was like I can do my show here, and then I'll fly on down to. I got to go to Atlanta, then Atlanta to Augusta, and I'll get into Augusta. Reasonable hour on Thursday night, and get a nice dinner and whatever. Get ready for tomorrow. I now don't get to Augusta. I got like a 3-hour. Something got changed. I got a 3-hour layover in Atlanta. I don't get there.
Drive. Why are you taking the flight? You drive it. Can you cancel? It's like an hour 50.
I would rather drive it at that point than do. But it never. I just realized this like yesterday as I was looking. I was like, something has changed. I now don't even get there till like midnight. Life is still.
That's a disaster. Adam Finkelstein with 247. We're going to see him down there. Veteran of this move here. I guarantee you, he's not flying between the two. Guarantee that's the case there. So if you have the means to switch that, I honestly would switch it because you will get to Augusta earlier. And by the way, since we are going to Peach Jam, we've done this the past couple of years now with Fink. We will have at least one show with him, maybe even bring on Travis Branham or someone we'll set up the questions. They can tell you what you need to know. There's a lot of big name prospects. The U17 team just won gold in FIBA competition led by Cameron Boozer and company there. So we'll get to a lot of that stuff. Almost nothing that we're going to talk about on the Mailbag episode today has to do with recruiting. However, there will be some doings and some news and some stuff to talk about over the next 4 to 7 days. So we will have at least one episode to fold those guys in as well.
All right. Like I said, we're headed to Peach Jam later on this week. For now, we got a Mailbag episode. Norlander went through. He got all your questions.
Yes.
And then he color coordinated them.
I did.
Why you do that?
So that you know which ones are yours, so you don't read mine by mistake.
I know, but you know what happens? Then I start trying to write answers down, and that next thing you know, I'm typing in purple.
Okay. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to switch the color. I promise you.
I struggle with color switching.
Okay. All right. How about this? Moving forward for the Mailbag episodes, I'll keep your questions in black, okay? And I'll make mine in color. That better for you?
I would appreciate. Yeah,
I did a little alliteration for this one. A little peek behind the curtain. Parish is purple. Parish purple. Seemed easy enough.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with a purple question. This one comes from Gruntled Boy. Is that right?
Well, here's the deal. Gruntled Boy, shouts to Gruntled Boy. There was a call for our Mailbag questions, and we got plenty of email. By the way, as always, appreciate the emails. At any point, shouts to cbs@gmail.com. That's the word 2, T-O, not the number 2. Whenever you want, we save them all. Some of them that are included here today are a couple days old. Some are a couple of months old. However, there was also questions that were put on our subscribe to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page because you can also submit questions that way. And this is where we not only got Gruntled Boy, But I do want to give a quick shout out to a woman named Cindy who contacted the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page and simply left this comment. I find your coaching style as entertaining as your teams. I live in Florida now, came from Connecticut. Does your family, and I mean dad and brother, bust you about any of your antics on the court at family gatherings? I can only take this to mean that Cindy was trying to contact Dan Hurley through our YouTube page.
Yeah, that makes sense. We should pass that along.
Or we have a Hurley related question coming. I can forward this on to Dan Hurley, but please, if you want to send us stuff, that's welcomed. Trying to hit up some of the most well-known, accomplished coaches in the game through our YouTube page. I'm not going to say you can't do it. I'm going to say it might be a little bit more difficult to get the message along. That's
what
all.
We need to how surprised would Cindy be by this? How pleased would she be if we got Dan to answer her on the YouTube page?
We can certainly try. Heck, we should see Dan at some point later this week, presuming we'll cross paths at Peach Jam or whatever, and maybe I can ask him. Maybe I can even get it on video and send it along to Cindy. But it was entertaining to read this question pop up. Okay. Like, what is this? Oh, she's trying to ask Dan Hurley this. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Well, you do the best you can. You get on the internet, you do the best you can. I mean, I can't even change colors.
Yeah. With that being said, Gruntled Boy has a question.
Yeah, pick a team outside of the way too early top 25-1 that could realistically win the title this year. On the surface, it might sound like, well, that's a silly question, except like this happened just 2 years ago.
That's right.
UConn was unranked in the preseason in the AP poll, wins the first of what we now know 2 national championships. So, obviously, I don't think our next national champion is outside of the top 25-1 as the author of the top 25-1. But otherwise, I should make it. Otherwise, version 30 needs to be coming up any day now.
That's right.
So I just looked at I went to barttorvik.com. Do you mind? I went to barttorvik.com. I looked at his 2024-25 projections just to see the highest rated teams there that I do not have in the top 25-1. Okay. What do you think? What do you think the highest rated team at Torvik is that I don't have in the top 25-1?
I don't know. Well, because I do know that Torvik's rankings, his off-season projections came out in the past few days. I intentionally did not look at them in an effort to answer this question. So I'm going to give you mine, and then I will guess. I'm guessing one of mine is his highest rated. My 3 in order, because I don't think any team outside of GP's top 25-1 should realistically be considered a viable candidate. I think that stands to reason there. That being said, I do think there are a few teams he doesn't have ranked that I would have ranked somewhere in the top 25. And so from those teams, I don't think it's like super, super far-fetched. My number 1 candidate is Kansas State. They've got Coleman Hawkins, obviously. They brought in Achor from Stanford, he's not underrated in that community and that fan base, but I actually think he could wind up being a pretty impactful transfer next season alongside Hawkins. They got Doug McDaniel from Michigan as well. They brought in 5 transfers who average double digits. So Kansas State's my answer. I would also consider Illinois, who I'm high on, and I don't think Parish, because I did check your top 25-1. I don't think you have Illinois in there.
I do not.
And then I would put Arkansas. Those would be my 3. And my guess to your question, I would guess it's Arkansas.
Okay, well, I have Arkansas in the top 25-1 pretty safely. Then I missed like in the top 20. The highest ranked team at barttorvik.com that isn't in my top 25-1 is Rick Pitino's St. John's.
Is it really? They're 16th. Johnnies.
The Johnnies are 16th at barttorvik.com. Illinois is 17th.
Okay.
Michigan State is 18th. And that is the other, like the number 27 for me right now is Michigan State. They got pushed out by somebody. So right there for me, that would probably be my answer, Michigan State. Texas Tech is 20 at Torvik. Mississippi State's 22. Kentucky is 23. So I guess I'd go Michigan State. If I got to answer Gruntled Boy's question directly, I'll take Michigan State as the team most likely to win the national championship that isn't currently in the top 25.
Now, listen, the last mailbag episode we were efficient, and we're going to be efficient again. But that being said, I do have a quick question. I wondered if you looked it up. Did you happen to check and be like, okay, Torvik just released his rankings. What team does he have lowest that I have in my top 25-1? Do you know what that is?
I did not look it up. Let's look it up right now.
I'm curious as to what the lowest team at Torvik that's also in GP's top 25-1. And I wonder if it's anyone that's, say, sub 45 out of curiosity. I don't know. I'm
just going to go outside of 26 and start looking. He's got Cincinnati at 28. I have Cincinnati ranked. I have Indiana in my top 20. He's got them all the way down at 31. I've got Ohio State in my top 15. He's got them down at 33. I've got Florida in the 20s. He's got them at 35. I've got Arkansas in the top 20. He's got them at 36.
Okay.
Scrolling down.
Maybe I think Arkansas, huh?
Oregon, maybe. I think I have Oregon in the top 25-1. If I don't, I know I did at one point.
Okay.
Actually, I'm looking at it now. I don't think. Oh, I bet you I know who it's going to be. Let me look here.
Who you got?
I bet it's Providence.
Ooh.
I have Providence in my top 25-1 at number 26. He's got Providence at 60th.
Wow.
I found a computer that doesn't believe in Kim English. We should get Cindy to ask Kim about it through our YouTube page.
That's true. Actually, we need to set up Cindy through that. So I'm making a mark right now for it. Yep. Cindy, ask Kim English what's wrong with Torvik. Okay, that's duly noted. Okay, interesting note there. Okay, just low on Providence. GP's got him in the top 25-1. Good to know. Nada is in the chat right. Nada, you are wrapping up your honeymoon. Get out of this chat and go enjoy your vacation. I'm demanding it right now, although I appreciate the contribution.
The only person who should have to spend their honeymoon with me is my wife. And even she, I don't know that I don't know that it was her first choice.
Oh, come on. It was a good time. It was a good time. We can derail this. We probably talked about this on the pod, but I've forgotten. My wife and I went to Italy for our honeymoon. Where did you go on your honeymoon?
We did not do a proper honeymoon. We got married in the Bahamas. We got married when we were young. We didn't have any money. Like that's the truth. We were poor.
Okay.
And like I don't mean poor. Like we were, but we didn't have any money. So we just went away and got married. Our anniversary trips have far exceeded our actual honeymoon.
There you go. Hey, maybe that's how it should be though. But Bahamas is all right. That's solid.
It was fun. We got an anniversary trip coming up. We're going to France. And
good on you.
Spain. I just realized like last week
that you're going when the Olympics are happening.
Yes, I had no idea.
Oh my gosh, you're incredible. You didn't realize this when you booked the trip?
I was like, why are these flights so expensive to Nice? Turns out the whole world's going there for the Olympics.
Yeah. So you're going to be in France, but will you be in Paris when the Olympics are happening?
No, we'll be in Nice. We'll be in the French Riviera.
There you go. That looks.
But there are events. There are events down there.
Yeah. What are they doing down there? Any idea?
Soccer.
All right.
Yeah. And some swimming. I think they're going to swim a little bit, maybe kick a ball around.
Love it. All right, question number 2. Oliver in Omaha asks, in light of the College World Series, would you rather have a college baseball-like tournament with groups of 4s in double elimination style regionals, super regionals, and a College World Series styles tournament, or would you rather have the tournament stay exactly the way it is with expansion looming? GP, here's the deal. I tell you, you can keep the 68-team, or how about the 72-team single elimination tournament, or we go back to 64, because this is how the College World Series is bracketed for those who are unfamiliar. You get 30 auto bids, you get 34 at larges. 16 teams actually get seeded and get to host a super regional if they so choose. The regionals are 64 teams into 16 14 brackets. Then there's double elimination. Those teams move along. There are 16 teams remaining after that, and they are in the ones that won all the 14 pods. They get into 8 matchups of a best of 3, and then those winners move on to play to Omaha for 4 double elimination brackets. It's not that complicated if you're actually familiar with it, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, Debo has actually put up what the bracket looks like. So, GP, I'm going to put a twist on the question, though. Instead of having nothing but double elimination, to keep the upset element of this, would you rather just go 72, 76 single elimination tournament? Or I tell you, we go back to 64, but if we do that, the first round is all single elimination, but once you get to Sweet 16, the first 2 are single elimination, but Sweet 16 and beyond, it's a best of 3. This is all hypothetical, not worried about television schedules and the calendar. Would you rather stay a 76-team single elimination or go to 64, but 16 and on is a best of 3? Okay, I like baseball. I like the way baseball does it better. I know that part of the incredibleness, if that's even a word, sure,
of the NCAA tournament is the single elimination aspect of it. Like if Kentucky and Oakland have to play 2 out of 3, it probably goes a different direction, right?
Right.
And John Calipari's probably still the coach at Kentucky. And so that.
On the other hand, if Oakland wins 2 out of 3, John Calipari might be done coaching, period. So there's not.
Yes. That's the other thing. You lose back-to-back games to Oakland, you don't even get the Arkansas job.
It's over.
You have to retire. It's over.
That's right.
So it can cut both ways, I guess. I understand that part of the appeal of this event is the single elimination aspect of it. I also get sick when you watch like all-time great teams just squander it with one bad game. Like it is crazy to me that like 2010 Kentucky didn't go to the Final Four. or 2015 Kentucky didn't win it. Just a bunch of Kentucky teams. It's crazy to me that a bunch of Kentucky teams didn't do stuff that they should have done.
Like that never gets talked about. The fact that John Calipari only won one title at Kentucky despite having like 57 draft picks. Yeah.
Oh man, been $5 billion in contracts and everything else.
The whole deal.
I like giving a safety net. I think we would more often than we do now, have a team hold the trophy that we go, yep, that was clearly the best team in the country. I know we did that this year
and last year,
but we don't always do it. You know that.
Yeah, without a doubt. If you gave me a magic wand, I would combine the both. I would say round of 34, round of 32. That's single elimination because you still get the Cinderella aspect and you still got a decent chance of looking up and having a St. Peter's like make it to the Sweet 16. But once you get to the Sweet 16, if I could do it, then it's best of 3 from here on out, and that would give you the more likely, reasonable, pragmatic champion because they'd have to actually earn their way. It's never going to happen, but it was a very creative question, and it's not the first time we've gotten a question like that. That's why I wanted to include it. I like the idea.
I like the idea. The other thing I would like, bringing stuff to campus.
Yes.
Bring it. I would love to have NCAA tournament games on campuses. Because the first and second round of the NCAA tournament, it is awesome to sit in front of 4 screens and watch them.
Yes.
The buildings are sometimes empty. It
depends on the venue. It depends on the venue. Brooklyn this past time around, this past year, I was there for the first weekend. It was good, but you can get kind of clunkers. The women's game obviously still does first weekend on campus sites for the higher seeded teams. Yeah.
So I would that's another aspect of it. I'd like bring some stuff to campuses. I would enjoy that. Let's move on. John from New York City. He admits to rooting against Leaky Black. That's his own. That's something you're going to.
He admitted this in the email, which I couldn't believe, but he is obviously a Duke fan, which is why he sets up this question.
Yeah, it's going to be a lifelong battle with yourself. Depending on how football shakes out, can you imagine a scenario in which a basketball program like Duke or UConn becomes a Notre Dame and belongs to no basketball conference and sets up its own national schedule with an accompanying independent TV contract? I acknowledge, I don't think I've ever thought about this, but could I see it? Absolutely. I could see that.
So another good question. I can't see it with a UConn because the Big East isn't going anywhere, and even if UConn,
I should be clear. I don't mean I can see it with those schools exactly. I can see somebody doing it
without a doubt. Yeah, we'll get there.
And Gonzaga would make some sense.
Yeah, there we go. But with UConn, just to answer the teams in the question there, UConn, if it can't get access to the Big 12 over the next 10 years, it's perfectly fine thriving in the place where it should be anyway. So I get that. There is concern about long-term ACC stability and what will come if and when FSU and Clemson are able to maneuver out of that conference there. But at a certain point, leagues can only get so big, 18, which is the size of the Big 10 right now. It's more of a committee than a conference. 20 would be a true joke. I bring that up to say, the ACC is never going to, in my opinion, it's not going to fall apart. Yes, the Pac-12 did, but you can't put 24 teams in a league. I mean, you could. It would be a complete farce. So I don't foresee the ACC completely destabilizing and falling apart. So I don't think you'd have a Duke there. However, I would say, again, hypothetical world, it would be really riveting if Duke, a school like Duke, went independent, because I think it could. And I actually think you could make a solid case for Duke going independent and making its situation better in men's basketball than necessarily having ACC affiliation, because there's nothing saying that you couldn't still annually schedule game, 2 against Carolina, get Wake, NC State in there, bring a Maryland game back in. The one thing that's the downfall, obviously, is if you're not in a conference, you don't have protected access through an automatic bid, so you have to get in as an at-large. That being said, Gonzaga is the school that applies to this more than any other one. I would love to see it for the unique factor in men's college basketball. I think Gonzaga could feasibly arrange for it. I know that Mark Few has, given passing thought to considering should this be something that we give credence to, because it has the capacity to build out a good enough schedule to do this. The problem becomes once you get into basically mid-January till March 2, 3, 4, what teams can you schedule? Who can you maneuver in? And so because of the way the conferences are getting bigger and bigger, moving around that becomes more of a challenge. However, separate to that, kind of in a vacuum, it's a fascinating idea. Some people think Notre Dame joining a conference is ultimately inevitable, but they've been saying that for 40 years. Hell, maybe it happens in the year 3000, but Notre Dame is continuing a pace the way that it has been, and certainly has a nice setup where it's going here. I'd love to see it. It probably wouldn't happen. Gonzaga is your most likely candidate.
I think the problem with Duke would be you'd be giving up a lot of football money.
Oh,
like,
yeah. That's separate. Like that removes it aside entirely. Is like giving up that money. Yeah.
And here's the problem for Duke. ACC football is worth something, not as much as SEC football or Big Ten football, but it's worth something. Duke football is not really. So Duke as an entity benefits from Clemson football, Florida State football, that kind of stuff. So I don't know that it makes any sense for Duke, because even if the ACC were to be diminished, which I do think is possible in the coming years, Duke will always have a home. Like, whether it's Big Ten, SEC, somebody's going to want Duke, the brand, the institution of higher learning. Somebody's going to want Duke. So Gonzaga is the one that I could see this making sense. You just say, hey, WCC, we don't need your little basketball check anymore. We'll do this on our own. And that could I could see that. I'm not predicting it, but that's the one where I'd at least, get some smart people and sit down in a room and see if we could talk about it a little bit more. Up next, we got a Duke question.
Oh,
Norlander's going to ask it. It comes from a teenager in South Dakota. But first, let's get a word from our partners. Come on, Knuckles.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
Norlander, next question is for you. It comes from Jackson. He's 16 years old in South Dakota.
There we go. Shouts to Jackson. Appreciate you hitting us from the Badlands or somewhere near there. Why do you have, this is for Parish though.
Okay.
Why do you have Duke ranked so low with your reason? I think this dates back to an episode a few weeks ago. Why do you have Duke ranked so low with your reasons being they're too young when 3 out of 5 starters will be players with college experience? Parish, where do you have Duke ranked right now as a refresher for our audience?
I have Duke 9th in the top 25 and 1. Completely fair question from Jackson. Trust me, other people have asked it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, like Duke is plus 1,200 to win the national championship. It's the 3rd best odds in the country, behind only UConn and Kansas. UConn and Kansas have better odds. Duke has the 3rd best odds. That's according to FanDuel. But I do have Duke 9th in the top 25 and 1. Yeah, technically true that 3 of the 5 starters could be people with college experience. But one of those, and I'm not sure the projected starting lineup Jackson's throwing out, but I would assume it includes Caleb Foster, who, he was a part-time starter last year and then, had his season cut short. I like him though. I think he's going to be really good. Another one of the starters, I guess would be Mason Gillis. And, he's experienced, but he started exactly 0 games at Purdue last season. He has started at Purdue before, but he started 0 games at Purdue last season. So there's some experience there, but Caleb Foster is going to be asked to have a different role than he's ever had. Mason Gillis is going to have a much different role than he had at Purdue last season. And I think this is the biggest thing. Their presumed best player is 17 years old. Now he's going to be amazing, I assume. But Cooper Flag doesn't turn 18 till December. He's going to play, the first month of his season as a 17-year-old, and his entire college career as as he'll be 18 at the Final Four. And it doesn't mean that he won't be amazing, but it's a little bit like in the NBA, like when Anthony Edwards is balling out in the playoffs. It's like, but 22-year-olds just don't lead teams to NBA titles. That's not the way this stuff works, almost ever. And 17, 18-year-olds have not been leading college basketball teams to great stuff consistently lately. I guess that's my hesitation, but let me be clear on this. I admit up front, I might be low on Duke. I'm very aware of, if I could just snap my fingers and adjust for no reason, I guess I could. I'm in charge of it. I might move them up just because I'd prefer to be a little more in line with the betting markets. And, they probably do have more future NBA players than anybody else. When they might have 3 lottery picks, I think probably 2 at least, maybe 4 top 20 picks or top 30 picks. So they're incredibly talented. I am not skeptical. I mean, I have them top 10 in the country. I'm your best player being 17 years old is not ideal. We might look up in December and go, but he's just the best, so it doesn't matter. But that's awfully young to be trying to lead a basketball team in this era of college basketball.
Yeah, Duke has the number one class. Obviously, it has 5 players in the top 20 at 247 Sports. But we'll see if they can get that done. I haven't thought about exactly where I'll put Duke. It's going to be in my top 10 for sure once we do the big preseason reveal in October. I wouldn't expect that I'm going to have Duke 1, 2, or 3. However, that being said, quick trivia time here. Where was Duke the past 2 preseasons in the AP top 25? So for Shire's first year, where do you think it was?
I think they've probably been higher both.
They were 7th in going into his first year. They finished 18th at Ken Pom in year 1 under Shire. And then last season, they were 2nd.
Yeah. Heading
into the season, they finished 7th at Ken Pom there. Both obviously quality seasons. There will be a lot of pressure on Shire, without a doubt, but the data and points GP just made need to, well, no doubt be referencing and talking about it a lot this season, because Duke is going to be super fascinating, and Flag has the capacity to be the relatively rare freshman that comes in and is just absurdly dominant. If he continues to look like the player that we saw on the recruiting trail the past couple of years, real deal, 2-way player, excited to see it. But I got no issue with you putting them where they are. Duke anywhere in the top 10, I think is reasonable, rational. On that note, you mentioned Torvik. Curious, where does Torvik have Duke right now?
2nd.
Got him 2nd. Okay. Wow. And that's a little bit trickier for the computer stuff, because Palm does this as well. You're trying to assign certain values to certain highly regarded recruits based on history and how teams have performed there. So there's a little bit of dart throwing with that as well. And
he also said, I think he tweeted, there is a model he has that does spit out Duke at number 1. They're immensely talented. Yep. But their best player is 17 years old, and like other teams' best players that they're competing with for a national championship are going to be 22, 23. Again, this is one of those deals where we might look up in December and it's like, who cares that he's 17? Like, this is what LeBron James would have looked like as a 17-year-old in college basketball. I got it. All right. I know. I'm just saying, I'm not ruling that out. I'm just like, he is 17 years old, and it's a big jump.
Next question
comes from Jeff Rigby, parts unknown, like a wrestler. From parts unknown. And Jeff from Idaho Falls. So we
had 2 Jeffs that sent similar questions. So shout out to the Jeffs.
Okay. So here's the way it was written in purple. With private equity apparently about to happen in college sports, does something like the All-State 12 have the same appeal to you as the Big 12? Also, if Brett Yormark is successful, he's the Big 12 commissioner, in using private equity to deliver another 20 to 24 million in annual revenue to the Big 12 schools, in addition to the 32 million they will make for media rights, could that be the key for Big 12 schools to approve of Yormark's desire to create a super basketball conference that would include adding Gonzaga and UConn? I guess to that I would say maybe. But again, this is all, the simplest way to think of it is pieces of pie. Whatever the pieces of pie are without UConn and Gonzaga, they've got to be the same or bigger with UConn or Gonzaga, or else you're not going to get university presidents to. That is a very simplified way of looking at it, but that's, the pieces of pie need to be the same size or bigger.
That's certainly a major part of it right now, and why there hasn't been traction for either of those schools for many, many, many months now. I think if the Big 12 winds up getting north end of 20 million in revenue each year through private outside help, it probably increases the chances that they would add basketball powers by the end of the decade. As things stand right now, I don't think there's a huge desire, but we'll see if they actually get there. Our Dennis Dodd broke that story a couple weeks back about the fact that the Big 12 is looking into it and could have some significant help with that. Then, the private firm would then, I guess, own a portion of the Big 12 and everything that comes with that. And obviously that is ripe for some criticism when you look at the history of what a private capital and private equity can do to help or destroy businesses in the long term. The college sports is such a different thing, though. I can't say that anyone can predict with 100% certainty how that's going to go. As for the sponsorships, so this came up recently in June as well. On one level, this seems inevitable. The idea that the name of the Big 12, for instance, which is also looking into this, but pick any conference, I guess particularly smaller conferences. I can't believe we're not already there, Parish. If you can get a corporation to pay you tens of millions of dollars to endorse your league by actually putting that corporation's name on your conference, logo, the name of it, period. Like that is something that commissioners, presidents, and ADs are going to sign up for. So the All-State 12 instead of the Big 12, because, All-State Insurance Company has been the one that's been, I guess, connected to this most. And that's why we got the question on it. Does it, are you bothered by it? Would you abide by it? Like, we don't, like,
this is where we're headed. This is the next step.
I think it's the next step, but would we as sports writers actually abide by this stuff? Like when we go and cover something at, the Rack, it's technically Jersey Mike's Arena. We call these buildings what they're called and usually not by their sponsor. There are exceptions, obviously, but I don't know. The SEC spot, presented by Aflac. Like if you're writing about, we got a couple of great matchups this weekend in the SEC. You're not going to write the SEC : presented by Aflac, are you? It's an interesting thing. I think we're headed there. I don't know in terms of the application of this among sports media, if it really adapt or not, because what we're talking about here with like the Big 12 and specifically, this is hypothetical, but what has been pushed out there is it would no longer be called the Big 12. If Allstate theoretically was the company that did this, it would be called the All-State 12. It doesn't really bother me all that much because these conferences' names, particularly the 12 part of it, lost a ton of meaning once realignment hit a decade ago. But I don't know how much people would abide by it. It's a little bit weird, but I don't hate it as much as I thought maybe I would.
Yeah, I don't hate it in this, if only because it feels inevitable. Somebody says, hey, if you'll put our name on you or call yourself this thing, we'll pay you to do it. Like, that's how boxers end up with stuff on their robes and, golfers end up with certain logos on their hats.
Yeah.
And, once upon a time, I imagine, my parents and grandparents watched the Sugar Bowl. We watched the All-State Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, but do we call it the All-State Sugar Bowl?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. And so I don't.
Time. What was it before All-State?
The
Chick-fil-A.
I think
it was Nokia. Remember Nokia? I think it was the Nokia. I think that's what it was.
I think if you really want, because I'm not compelled, if I'm writing about the Sugar Bowl, I'm not compelled to call it the All-State Sugar Bowl. Like in basketball, every once in a while, you'll get that email that'll say, the Maui Invitational is actually the Maui Gym.
The Maui
whatever.
Gym Maui.
The Maui Gym Maui, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get into all that.
Right.
I think when I covered it and I was there, I was like, I'm looking at all these people, so I'm, I don't want them to.
Okay.
I might as well do it. I don't need them looking cross-eyed at me. But I'm not compelled when we doing the podcast to be like the Maui Gym. I don't need all of it. So I think to actually get you bang for your buck, you probably do need it to be like the All-State 12 or the All-State whatever.
Right.
But the problem becomes, unless that's a permanent forever sponsorship, you just gonna be changing your conference name all the time. Like we do this with arenas.
That's the thing. That's why it's interesting. Like, because you got to figure when they do this, like they'll sign like 10-year deals or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, hell, they changed it from Pac-8 to Pac-10 to Pac-12. What's the damn?
Yeah, like it's gonna be the All-State 12 for 10 years, and then it's be like the Raising Cane's 12 for 10 years.
They should knock out the 12. By the way, there's no brand value with 12 to begin with. There aren't 12 teams. There haven't been 12 teams in this damn league for the majority of the past 15 years anyway.
Conference. It's the All-State Conference, and then it could be the Arby's Conference, and then it could be the Car Wash USA Conference.
Correct. Yes, and it should be SEC presented by Waffle House. Like some of these are so obvious, without a doubt. ACC presented by Homelander feels appropriate, but yes, without a doubt. Like we're headed this.
We'll get there. I mean,
I think we will get there. Yeah.
Well, it's like you can see it in other sports happening. It's people name fields in addition to stadiums.
Yep.
The field is one thing, the stadium's another thing. Basketball players got patches on their jerseys now. This is where we're headed.
Universities take money from super rich people so that their head coaching positions can be named after a family. And no one ever refer. That's only in official press releases from the school. Right. So there we go. Tyler from New Zealand sent along this screenshot. He said, does Norlander have any relation to this legend? You're going to have to watch this, so we can describe it if you're listening. It's bring it up, Debo, if you can. Does Norlander have any relation to this legend? Also, quote, born in Virginia, Minnesota, sounds like the answer to a trivia time question. There's a player that played in the NBA with the last name Norlander. Does not have any relation to me. The born in Minnesota. First of all, did you know there was a Virginia, Minnesota?
I've never been there.
That's a callback. The emailer is a callback to remember when we were doing the D3 tournament. We were talking about all these teams. That's a great callback. Johnny Norlander, 6'3", 180. Hey, dude, right here, 6'3", 175. So we're pretty damn close. He's no longer with us. Passed in 02. Played at Hamline. Was in the NBA for 5 years. Did not know this, which begs this question, Parish. Who are the most famous people with our surnames? Because I only got 2. The first one you might know. He's a golfer. Henrik Norlander. You ever heard of him?
Yes.
He's on the PGA Tour. I would say Henrik Norlander is the most famous of the Norlanders there. You can see him there. Not a bad swing. I don't know if he has a single PGA Tour win, but he's on there. And then
he's doing his best. He's
not the first like semi-famous Norlander I knew, though. That would be Eric Norlander. Take a look at this badass right here. Eric Norlander is a prog rock keyboard musician. He's been around for a couple of decades. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that, dude. I went to, because I was looking like, what are the famous parishes? And there's a Wikipedia page with all these famous parishes. You're not on it, by the way.
Oh, what?
You're not on it. And anyway, that Wikipedia page has like 30 parishes. I've never heard of most of these people. The Norlander one has 5, and I'm not on it either. Don't worry. So that being said, Henrik Norlander is probably the most famous of the Norlanders. Who's the most famous parish in the world?
I think the first one that popped into my head, Lance Parrish. Do you remember Lance Parrish, baseball player?
No.
Lance Parrish, I believe, played in the 80s. I grew up with him, like baseball cards and all that stuff. Lance Parrish, Wikipedia, baseball. Let me see what comes up. I hope he's still with us. That'd be a hell of a thing to learn on a Monday. Oh, yeah, he is. Lance Parrish, he was a catcher. He's 68 years old now. He played mostly for the Detroit Tigers, but his career lasted from 1977 and 1995. He had a long career. Much longer than Johnny Norlander.
Yeah, no, he had a better career for sure. Shouts to Lance Parrish. I think there ain't that. I mean, how do I not get on that? What do I got to do to get on that? You're not on it. You're not on it. Do you have a Wikipedia page? I don't think I do.
I do have a Wikipedia page.
Did you make your Wikipedia page?
I did not make it, but I have tried to edit it before. And buddy, if you think I can't change,
get out of here. What are you trying to edit on your? Come on, man. Do not be that guy. What are you trying to edit on your Wikipedia page? Your height?
No. I was just trying to flush it out. It's like very brief. Somebody else did it, and I don't know how to edit it. I mean, I can't even change the purple text to a normal color. So I've tried to like add to it, but I can't. I don't know how to do it.
Oh,
so
here it is. Yeah. This has got to come on, dude. This has to be the shortest Wikipedia page in the
I tried to add to it. I don't know how. It's impossible.
I'm reading you the entirety of the Wikipedia page. First of all, that picture is amazing. It's an amazing. So if you're watching, you can see it. So you can, if you're watching, use it. Gary Parrish is a sports columnist for CBSSports.com, a host, studio analyst, and sideline reporter for the CBS Sports Network, the host of the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, and the host of the Gary Parrish Show on Grind City Media in Memphis. Parrish has been with CBS Sports since 2006 and Grind City Media since 2023. He previously worked at the Commercial Appeal and 92.9 ESPN in Memphis. That's all accurate biographical information. I don't think it requires a Wikipedia page.
I want it to be better than that, but I don't know how to do it. And I've never taken the time to try to figure it out.
That's incredible, man. Here's the most famous Parrish. Do you know who Janelle Parrish is? I did not until this morning.
I know Janelle Monáe.
Nope. Janelle Parrish. She has 11 million followers on Instagram, over 1 million on Twitter. She was in the show Pretty Little Liars. Didn't know who this woman was, but she is the most famous Parrish of them all. Janelle Parrish. She's doing a little...
Well, I've never even heard of this woman.
It's Janel. I didn't know who she was either. I thought for sure you'd know who a famous female Parrish with 11 million Instagram followers. I had this at minus 10,000. You knew who this woman was.
I don't even know this woman, but I'm looking at her now. She looks like she takes good pictures.
She does.
She takes pretty good pictures for a Parrish.
I think that's the most famous Parrish.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to give her a follow then to support my.
Sure.
She might be my cousin.
I'm glad I could help uplift your day. I don't believe that I have any family connection to Johnny Norlander, NBA legend, although I love the fact that is a fact. But I can, my grandparents way back when, they did a whole family tree. I can check that, ask my father for where that document is, but I believe, unfortunately, I don't have any direct connection, although very close in identical height and very close in weight. All right, you're next.
Let's go Cards 0421.
Let's go.
That's a hell of a screen name.
Let's go Cards 0421.
All right, let's go Cards 0421. Asks, who wins a street fight? 50-year-old Bobby Knight or Dan Hurley right now?
All right, so I texted Dan Hurley this morning asking for his measurements. Dan Hurley is 6'2", 190 pounds per what he told me today. All right.
Good. That's good.
By the way, Hurley just got officially, he is on a 6-year deal worth $50 million. That was also a news item that happened earlier today. We didn't want to talk about that. We wanted to talk about this. Although I did not get his opinion on it.
Congrats on your contract, but could you beat up Bob Knight?
Correct. I did not seek an on the record quote. Felt that would be inappropriate with the late Bob Knight. Bob Knight, according to his Basketball Reference page, 6'2", and at 50 years old, I've got a number. What weight do you want to put Bob Knight in retrospect when he was 50? How much do you think he weighed?
Well, first off, he's 6'5".
Bob Knight 6'5".
Bob Knight. Okay, this is very confusing because if you
Basketball Reference had him at 6'2".
Okay, I know exactly what happened to you. There's another basketball player named Bob Knight.
Get out of here.
And that's where it takes you to a little short Bob Knight.
How do we know that that's not the Bob Knight the emailer was asking about?
They could be asking about this other, because I was like, dude, I've been around Bob Knight. I swear he seemed bigger.
I agree. When I saw this, I was like, I'm sitting next to Bob Knight, and I'm 6'3". I was like, I don't think I was tall. Okay, so Bob Knight 6'5".
Yes. I'm saying Bob Knight at 50 was like 6'5", 230.
Yeah, that's my number. 6'5", 230. Dan Hurley is 51 right now, so he's 1 year older than fighting a hypothetical 6'5", 50-year-old, 230-pound Bob Knight. It's a street fight. Listen, we get sent the questions. We owe it to our audience to answer them. Who are you taking in that?
Okay. I actually did think about this more than I thought about any of the other questions.
That's why I put the question in. You're welcome.
Okay. On one hand, the younger, taller, bigger guy obviously has an advantage. This is why we have weight classes, all right? Because a 190-pound man shouldn't be fighting a 230-pound man, all right? So in that respect, advantage Bob Knight. But I'm unfamiliar with Bob Knight's family history. I meant to look it up and forgot. Dan Hurley is a little brother, and I think that matters because little brothers can fight, mostly out of necessity. If you're a little brother, you got to be able to fight. Like my little 7-year-old, he could fight. And the reason he can fight is because he goes blow for blow with our 10-year-old every day. He's been fighting somebody 3 years older than him.
My little guy wrestles his big brother, man. It is hilarious to watch.
Okay. But he'll get in there. All right. So he is not afraid of any. I would take my 7-year-old against most 7-year-olds just because all I've ever do is watch him go blow for blow with a 10-year-old.
Our parents listening might identify with this. One of the things my little guy does to get leverage on the big brother, he takes his chin. He digs it right in here into the soft tissue between like the neck and the shoulder. He just digs it in there and just I mean this sincerely. It's adorable to watch before it gets out of hand, but it's the move every single little brothers. They got to find a way, man. They got to find an alley. They got to find a nook. They got to find a cranny.
It's so funny. So like quick aside. And by the way, just for your sake, we're not on a hard out anymore. My plans changed, so we're fine.
Okay.
Yesterday, so my wife took my middle guy, my 10-year-old, they went to the store, and he doesn't skateboard, all right? But he was in this Target, and there was a skateboard, and he hopped on it, and apparently some other little kids were in there, and they were goofing a little bit, like, oh, I wish I could ride it like that. They were making fun of him because he didn't really know what he was doing on that kind of thing. And he didn't even notice, but my wife noticed it and like whatever. So anyway, she's on the phone last night. Our little guy was staying with my mother, and she was talking to him, and she said, hey, at the store, somebody was, kind of making fun of your brother. And he was like, oh, I would handle that if I was there. He was like ready to, it was just sweet because he will fight his brother every day. Yeah. But when he heard like, my brother needs me, he was ready to go. This is going to end up they're both going to be in juvie in Mississippi.
So sweet, though.
I understand, but it was sweet. It made my heart proud to hear my little guy say he was ready to fight for his brother. Because if you just watch them on a day-to-day basis, they're best friends, but they aggravate each other, and they're like, I mean, they really go blow for blow. Yeah. And to hear him say like he was ready to drop hands at Target for his brother. I was proud.
That's a sweet story. I'm glad you shared it. Yeah, it's very, very good. Now that being said, who's winning, Hurley or Bob Knight?
Okay, like only one of these people can get mad at me for my answer.
If you don't think Bob Knight has the capacity to come back and haunt you from the grave, you've got something else coming.
I'm going to go with Dan Hurley just for the little brother factor. I think he grew up probably fighting. And when you're a little brother, I think you have to fight. I think little brothers have to fight. And I'm just going to trust that Dan Hurley, as a little brother.
He's also from Jersey. He's got some Jersey in him. And there's that as well.
I think that matters too.
Bob Knight was a bully. And bullies been pushed back upon sometimes. Not so tough. Not saying Bob Knight wasn't tough. Let's be clear on this. But 6'5".
Like, how about this? I think Dan Hurley would be in the fight until we'd have to stop the fight.
You and me, we'd stop the fight.
We'd have to, like Dan would be in it. He'd be in the fight till the end. Even if it went poorly for him, he'd be in it till the end. We would have to pull Bob Knight off of Dan Hurley if it went that way.
That's true.
I respect his heart.
Dan Hurley's also more into yoga now. I'm going Bob Knight, the size narrowly, but it's a great question. When we ask for mailbag questions, this is what we want. Okay. The whole, like, what do you think about my team being top 10? Like, that's all fine and good. We want these kind of questions. Mark that down for the future. Shouts to CBS@gmail.com. My turn. Nick from Sioux City, Iowa, who recently traveled to GP's backyard, sent this along. He said, first time in Memphis. I'm eating, and by the way, I'm sending this question. I don't know the answer to this, which is what we try and do here, because this is one of the more random emails we've gotten in the past couple of months. I'm eating Mamoya on Main. They have a specialty roll called the G. Parish anxiety disorder. I assume this is named after GP. So there's going to be a photo that pops up here of this sushi roll that I sent along to Debo there. Is this, first of all, a little too that's mayo, and I can't be doing that on a sushi roll. Is this all true? Do you have a sushi roll named after you in Memphis?
It is true.
What the hell is going on? First of all, the fact that you've never injected this into the podcast ever is another humongous upset. But what's the story about the fact that you have an anxiety? They call it an anxiety roll.
First, I don't like to talk about myself. You know that about me.
Yeah.
I'm not the most comfortable talking about myself, so that's why I've never brought it up. First off, I didn't even realize the place had changed names. It used to be called Bluefin. Now it's Mamoya, I guess. I haven't been there in a while. It's just right down the street here.
Paying respects to the place that is named a roll after you. You can't even stroll in there once every 2 months. Okay.
I don't get out so much. It's just I'm at FedEx Forum now. It's just right down the street. It's downtown. If you ever had a Grizzlies game, pop right in. So I was in there. This was probably 10, 12 years ago, long time ago. It's been on the menu that long.
Wow.
I was in there one night just with some friends or whatever, and the manager came over and was like, enjoy the show, all that stuff, and was like, hey, I think we might have been in a thing on radio where Jeff Calkins had a sandwich named after him at some restaurant, and maybe the manager was like, hey, because I can't imagine I would have been like, you should name a roll after me. I don't think that's the way that conversation went. I think it was like, Calkins, the manager was like, hey, I heard you guys talking about Calkins has got the sandwich at whatever. If you ever want to roll, let me know. And I was like, I definitely want to roll. Let's do that right now. And we did it that night. He was just like, so what do you think? I was like, I'll just tell you all the stuff I like, and then you're in charge. And I said, make it crunchy, because I love crunchy. And that's what you're looking at. It doesn't look great, I'm telling you.
Yeah, let's roll.
At one point, that was the G. Parish anxiety disorder roll was the best-selling roll at the entire restaurant.
And hold on, it's G. Parish, not Gary Parish?
Yeah, I don't know why I think it probably just they ran out of character.
They didn't want to pay for the NIL. I guess the full name would have been too much.
I guess maybe that's right. Maybe
hold on. I got a couple more questions here.
Okay.
You walk into this place today.
Yeah.
You getting this thing for free?
I don't know.
Not that you would ask for it, but do you think they're hooking you up with a free roll here?
I would assume that I would sit down, I would order the G. Parish anxiety disorder roll, and if the server happened to be into sports, they would probably be like, oh, that's hilarious. And if not, they would probably just think I'm a bald guy ordering a sushi roll. Like, it's hit or miss, right? But I will tell you,
like, we have a picture of you. You don't look like this guy. Sure, this is you,
right? Hey, no, we know the guy who came in and got this roll built. He had hair all over the place and looked younger. Yeah. I will tell you a funny, one night, Brent Stover was in town doing play-by-play Memphis basketball game on CBS Sports Network. It was a Saturday game, and so we go out on a Friday night. He's like, coming in town, come hang out with me. So me and my wife got a hotel. We got a room at the West in downtown. We stayed. So we're just going to make a downtown weekend. So I go out with Stover. We go to dinner at the place. He's like, hold up, you're on the We end up there somehow.
Somehow.
I don't remember. Like, we end up there somehow. I actually think I had told him about this roll, and he was like, "We got to go there."
Yeah, I gotcha.
So we went there, type of thing. We walk out, and we're walking down Main Street, and then somebody's like, "GP," or something like that, and turn around. It's Chandler Parsons. So then we're hanging out with Chandler Parsons on Mains, and so Stover was like, "Dude, you really are like a celebrity here, aren't you? Like, this is crazy." And I was like, "No, it's not like this. This is extreme. This is an extreme. I didn't expect."
Chandler, here's the deal. I'm gonna walk across the street
Right.
probably about 7:30. So if you can be there like 7:27.
There was no, I'm just telling you, like, it's looked set up, and I was like, I didn't set this up. It just is all just Chandler was actually out getting ice cream. I really think he was just out getting ice cream, if I remember correctly. So anyway, here's a funny one on top of that. So that happened. Whenever that happened, a few years ago, we're at the Final Four, and let me make sure I've got it right. I guess it was the Indianapolis Final Four during COVID. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're walking back from the set to the hotel, and we're just walking back, and we all got suits on and stuff. And, every once in a while, somebody would be like, "Wally," because they recognize Wally Zerbiak, or they recognize Brendan Haywood or whatever. And so me and Stover walking, and he's like, "Oh, a little different walking around in Indianapolis, isn't it? Not like walking around in Memphis." He's like, "How badly do you want somebody to recognize you right now?" He's doing one of those games, right?
Yeah.
We were 30 seconds after he said, "How badly do you want somebody?" This man says, "Excuse me, Gary Parrish?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Listen to the podcast. Love you. Can I get suddenly I'm taking selfies with the whole family. Jared Butler's family.
Yes. I remember this. Yes, you brought this up before. Yeah.
Stover was like,
great family.
"I'm convinced you paid them to be there and do that." So anyway, that's the story of it is a real role. It is named after me. I should get down. I might go there for lunch today.
That's good. You should go there for lunch and update us with the picture. I can't go mayo on a sushi roll. Can't do anything mayo based. Otherwise, sushi, top 5 dinner for you? Like, your average sushi, that's got to be top 5.
You know what? I enjoy sushi. I don't understand how people get unusually excited about it. For instance, if you just meet somebody, we've talked about this before, I know I've talked about this before. If you just meet somebody and they're like, "Hey, so what are you getting for dinner tonight?" You'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna get a steak." They'd be like, "Oh good, that sounds good." You'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're going to Italian." "Oh yeah, I like Italian, that's great." And if you say, "Oh yeah, we're getting sushi," they go, "Oh, sushi. Oh, I love sushi."
That is a thing. My wife and I have an understanding. I am not allowed. She gets so into sushi dinner because we don't get it a ton because I don't want to overdo it. So like sushi is like a once a month thing because I don't want to have it too often. But I am not allowed unless I'm on a work trip. It's half joking, half serious. I'm not allowed to just like, "Oh, you were out with your guys and you went out and you got sushi and then you came out." No, that's if we're doing sushi, it's got to be the both of us that get sushi. This is a very, very real thing. So your point on this, I don't know why that's a thing, but it's definitely.
I don't know why people get excited about sushi. I don't know why it is. It's like
there's one other food that applies to.
Okay, let me try to think what it is. Starbucks?
No.
People get excited about Starbucks.
No, this food is even more common. It's one of the most, eaten foods in the entire world, in the entire country. But when you say it, especially if you're like with shared company,
mm-hmm.
Hey, you guys want to do pizza? Yeah, let's do some pizza. Pizza definitely inspires a very excited reaction. Maybe there's got to be kids around. Not like sushi, because sushi's a little more exotic. But
not only do people get excited about sushi, they like to enthusiastically like wrap their arms around you about sushi. It's like a little sushi club going on. Dippin' Dots, same way.
I haven't had Dippin' Dots. I love 10 plus years easily. All right, let's get a hoops question in here. You're next.
Dan in Minneapolis emails, Matt Painter is going about putting his team together at Purdue differently than pretty much every other elite program in college basketball. Even in a down 2024-25, it wouldn't be a shock to see Purdue get an 8 straight top 4 seed. We can also pencil in with reasonable certainty who is going to be on the roster in 2025-26. When a junior and senior laden Boulder team easily could be a top 5 team, do you see any other programs taking a look at this type of roster building and attempting to replicate Painter's process, or will the other top programs in the sport continue to try to add 3 or 4 guys in the transfer portal each season? To answer the first question, Marquette is kind of doing something similar.
The only other one. It's the only high major that did not add a transfer this past cycle. Marquette's on year 3 of doing this, by the way.
Okay, so it's clearly working at Purdue with Matt. It's clearly working at Marquette with Shaka. I think it would be silly, bordering on stupid, for me to sit here and question Matt Painter as a person who runs a college basketball
give it a
program.
go. Let's see how that goes for you.
Or Shaka Smart they are running two of the best college basketball programs in the country. They're like, it would be silly for me to be like, and I don't really think they're doing it the right way, because like the results are the results. That said, I don't know. I think they're clearly in the minority, and I don't think most people in the sport believe that that's the way to do it. It's working for them, so I understand why they're doing it. But I think most people believe you need to be in the transfer portal, adding players every year.
And I would say not just to even bring more nuance to that, not just being the portal, but like probably bringing at least two. Like even one might not be enough. Now, to be clear, Marquette hasn't added a portal player in D1 in 3 years, and Purdue's about to do it here has done it this past offseason. Seeing it versus implementing is two different things. Very, very hard. I mean, those two programs are pushing against the tides of the sport. It can be done, but not by many. I would say you have to have, as a head coach, and then within your staff, like certain beliefs and way you do things that you just straight up never stray from. There's got to be an environment in your building with your staff that flows down to your players. The players have to basically want to be at the school just as much as they want to be coached by you. And getting, call it north of 10, 11 guys to do that is not easy. And thinking about this question, it was one of the things where, like, by the way, Purdue almost did pull a Virginia if it didn't run into UConn. Now it ran into UConn final game of the season, but it really almost went from losing to a 16 to winning it all. And even in light of that, it just kind of reinforces what Painter's built there and this consistency. The schools I could see trying to do this in the next, 1 to 3 years, if the rosters get built the right way, they have the right kind of success, and they keep the coaches they have. Here are the schools that I came up with. Knowing that this won't always work. Remember, UCLA kind of tried it this year ago, didn't work. This can also very much backfire. So there's no guarantee of success with this. I would say Michigan and Michigan State. Because remember, Dusty, although he did take a transfer, they were able to keep that FAU group together. I could see him, if they could really get something going, trying this. Izzo, obviously. Greg Gard, if he got the right, they just lost a ton to transfer. You got to have guys not transfer out, which is the problem there. But I can see Wisconsin, BYU, kind of what BYU is. More of us. Notre Dame and Virginia are the schools I could see maybe trying to implement this with the right exact kind of group, but even those schools don't apply to this season or period overall. It's a good question, and I guarantee you there are staffs at the high major level that are noticing what Marquette and Purdue have done and racking their brains and probably calling up those coaches about their assistants, being like, "What is your secret, man? What
if this is the secret? What if this is the secret? Okay. It's working at Marquette. It's working at Purdue. It's working at Marquette so far because you had an All-American NBA point guard. It's working at Purdue so far in this new era of college basketball because you had the 2-time National Player of the Year. Yeah. What do you make of that? Something to that.
Now, the irony there is that Kolek was actually a transfer from George Mason, who became amazing after he went to Marquette. But we'll see. I mean, there's something to be said for that, for sure. The fact that you did have Edey and he decided to return, and he was, a generational kind of player there. It's interesting. I would, as someone who covers the sport, I'd like to see this because I'd like to see a couple of schools be able to buck the trend. It's just more interesting. If you have teams that can be exceptions to the rule and can actually find success in doing it this way, I'd love to see it because it brings a little bit of differentiation to the table. We'll see if Purdue and Marquette, oh, by the way, both comfortably ranked inside GP's top 25-1 and will be preseason ranked teams. That's a guarantee with everyone to bring back. We'll see if they can maintain that going ahead next season.
Yeah, and Yeah, I think they'll both continue to be good. And, I do think the academic schools you mentioned, that's a place where you could maybe try this because, it's harder to leave a Virginia once you're in a Virginia, although we are watching people leave Ivy League schools to go to other places. So, I don't think there's one way to do this, but I do think I do think that they're in the minority. If they're going to continue to try to stay away from the transfer portal, that'll make them unusual relative to the rest of the sport.
We got another question, but this is more for a trivia time. I'm going to drop on GP here. Nick from San Diego writes, not unlike the All-Star game for major sports, what would you all think of an All-Star game between All-Star teams of D1 players in one state versus another? Of course, some adjustments would need to be made between states with different numbers of schools, but how cool would it be to see players from California play guys from Texas or New York versus North Carolina? Let's see which state is bringing in the best players. He says, I love the pod. It's always been a big part of my week. I hope to see y'all come through Viejas Arena sooner than later. And if you want to go to the zoo, your ticket is on me. First of all, Nick, are you aware of who Gary Parrish is? You're telling me you're going to get this guy into the zoo? San Diego State? I got to see.
I'll go to the zoo.
Let's go. That I got to see.
I would like to go to the zoo. I like the zoo.
Listeners know what I'm referring to there. I love the fact that the San Diego State fan has invited both of us, you in particular, to get in and be part of the zoo. I'm more than willing to try and make that happen. That would be incredible. It's an interesting idea, but it would never happen. However, Nick, your question did make me wonder which states produce the most D1 talent. GP and I are going to go on the road later this week to watch some of the best high school talent in the country play in North Augusta, South Carolina at the Nike Peach Jam. So here we go. This was actually researched 2 years ago.
Am I supposed to guess right now?
I want to see if you. Here's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Which state? Trivia time.
Mm-hmm.
Which states produce the most D1 players? I've got the top 10. We don't need to go through the top 10. I want to see if you can get the top 5 in any order in 10 guesses. Most D1 players, and this was as of 2 years ago when they pulled the data of every roster. So this is technically slightly outdated, but I would guess that most of these trends still maintain, some truth 2 years later.
California.
That is number 1 at 386 D1 players as of 2 years ago.
Texas.
Number 2, just barely behind. Texas is number 2 with D1 players. And then we got a little bit of separation before we get to the next group.
Yeah, those were my first 2 guesses for a reason. I'm not surprised they're 1 and 2. New York.
Number 3. If you're playing along at home, have you gotten 3 like GP has? Number 3 was New York with 266 D1 players.
Illinois.
Not in the top 5. Illinois was 7th, but not a bad guess. So you've got 3 with 6 guesses to go.
I'm running out of states.
No, you're not. In fact, you are not. You have 46 more states to go.
Yeah, but I don't know all of them.
One thing you're not running out of is states yet. Cali, Texas, New York.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm gonna say the difference between 5 and 6 is literally 2 players. So I will give you 6 if you get 6.
Okay. I might need to pull out a map.
Yeah, I knew you would. Yeah. Pull up a map. I don't care.
I don't think this is gonna be right, but I know. Nah, I'm not even gonna say that. Let's go with Washington State.
Not in the top 10.
It should be.
No, it shouldn't. Continue.
It's way over there,
Seattle isn't producing more than 150 D1 players.
Well, they should.
Washington State.
Well, no wonder they lost their NBA team then. No wonder they lost their NBA team then.
Toss out Connecticut while you're at it. Jeez.
Seattle, they got players in Seattle.
They do.
Apollo came from.
Yeah.
I
feel like one of these is easy.
Is it?
Yeah, I feel like it.
Florida.
There you go. Florida.
Yeah.
5th on the list.
Yeah.
5th on the list. You got what? 4 more guesses.
Georgia.
You got it. Look at you. I need to add this. I keep forgetting to put the sound effect. Look at you.
Mm-hmm.
In order: Cali, Texas, New York, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, then Illinois, then Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey.
Here you go. I was going to say New Jersey.
Is that what one you wanted to say, but you didn't? Would have been a good guess. New Jersey also is a sneaky state in terms of it produces a lot more D1 football talent than you might think, even though that's not a college football hotbed. All right, next question, you.
We are
Will from Connecticut.
Yeah, he wants to know if GP and Norlander had to swap lives and live at each other's homes. GP in wonderful, beautiful Connecticut, home of the soon-to-be three-peat champion Huskies, and Norlander in Memphis. How long could each of you last in the other's hometown?
The way this was worded was Norlander in Memphis, by the way.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that.
Memphis.
I wasn't going to say that.
As coincidence would have it, when we were prepping for this pod, GP sent he did an accidental text. Not an accidental text on purpose, just an accidental text. And did you see this person in line, or is this a screenshot from someone else?
A buddy of mine owns fireworks stands, and he sent that to me.
Do you want to say what the shirt? Should we say what the shirt says, or is this too much of a child's program here?
I think we can say what the shirt says. I think we can say that without getting too okay.
I mean, I don't know if Debo wants to. He's on the text thread. Debo, if you want to put it on the screen, I guess you could as well. I don't know this, but the point is this: this is the encounters that you run into frequently in your whereabouts.
Yeah. So fella walks in a fireworks stand. You know, you could put on any shirt. You can put on any t-shirt you want to.
That's
you know?
allowed. That fireworks stand doesn't matter. Yeah.
Oh, if there's one thing I know about fireworks stands, it's that it doesn't matter what t-shirt you wear in a fireworks stand. So a fella walks in a fireworks stand and pick out any t-shirt you want. Like you picked out that t-shirt today. I grabbed this one. This fella here, he grabbed one. My buddy owns fireworks stand, took a picture of him, sent me the picture. It's a guy in a shirt, fella, and it says on the shirt, I'm just quoting the shirt. Here's what it says. Please do not feed the whores drugs. That's what he wanted.
And that's a normal Wednesday for you.
Yeah, and I went to respond to him, and instead I responded to you and Debo. Like fireworks stands are wild places. But here's what I'm trying to tell you: make sure you understand what we're dealing with down here in the South. You wouldn't even blink if you saw that guy in that t-shirt. Like that's a very that wouldn't even make you go, oh man, I wonder what's happening here. You'd be like, well, we're at the fireworks stand in Mississippi. Of course that guy's here. And I want to be clear, this ain't like it appears. It doesn't look like he's 20. It looks like this guy. It looks like
some grays. He's got some grays up there.
Yeah, he's probably my age or older, right? And he's still he decided, you know what shirt I'm going to wear today? I'm going to wear the one that says, please do not feed the whores drugs. Which I think is good advice for anybody, honestly.
This is not a difficult question to answer. And it's not even culture clash or anything like that. GP would last longer in Connecticut than I would in Mississippi. You
would be very offended by Mississippi. We kind of get used to it. We kind of look past.
You know what the biggest reason why is
the racism.
Well, that's number one.
Yeah. Okay.
And a 1B.
You'd be exposed to some wild racism down here.
The close number two here is I like people ask the question, would you rather be too hot, too cold? I'll take too cold anytime. I can't stand oppressive humidity. I could not live in that part of the country with that much humidity. Not for me. I'm talking to you today. It is actually, I think we're about to hit 90 in Connecticut for maybe the second time the entire year. Let me give you the real time feels like temp outside right now. Right now we're going, it's 89 humidity situation. Feels like 93 humidity's actually 54%, not bad. It was like 85% over the weekend. I can't live like that. So the GP's going to last longer in Connecticut, and he's not going to be that out of his element there. He spends 25% of the year in New York City anyway. He's like an hour and a half from where I live as is.
I'm basically living there anyway.
You're no fish out of water.
I'm basically living in Connecticut anyway, half the year. All right.
That's correct.
I should be fair to Mississippi.
Go ahead.
It ain't as bad as I made it sound. I mean, will you still see a Confederate flag just like, taking your kids to school? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, you will. But I find the people mostly to be pleasant. We've come a long way down here, but I think you'd notice some stuff. You'd notice some stuff pretty quickly.
I've long wanted to visit you down there. Just haven't made it happen yet.
I will say, I just fundamentally, I think I'd be fine anywhere. Like I don't need much. Here's the thing: most people. There was a time in our adult life where we were considering moving to New York as a family. Like maybe it's time for us to make this move, and we were weighing all the pros and cons or whatever. And you start going like, how much fun would it be? You wake up on the weekend, you take your kids to Central Park. Wouldn't that be something? And it's like, yeah. And then you go to Mexico, and then you and go to. And here's the thing. Just like I ain't been to the sushi place.
Exactly.
You don't do this stuff. You don't do that. You know what most people do every day? They wake up in wherever they live, and they take a shower, and they go to work, and then they come home. That's what most people do every day. They're not in Central Park every day. That's
it's like a once a year thing. Yeah.
I got an apartment when I was in my early 20s, and they were trying to sell me on it. And they were like, and right across the street, it was downtown and everything. They're like, and right across the street, you might notice we have a dealership there, and you can rent luxury vehicles from there. So you wake up on a Saturday, you decide you want a Ferrari for the day, then you just walk right across the street, grab a Ferrari. And I was like, man, that sounds awesome. We got the apartment. And then I was like, when am I ever going to get a Ferrari? What is that even? Why did that even pop into my head as something that mattered? I've never rented a Ferrari. Why? But that's the time. So here's the thing. Give me a nice home, a golf course. That's all I need, and an airport. That's really all I need. So I don't care where I'm at. But the heat would be a bad thing down here. Last week on the golf course, one day, the felt like thing, 108.
Oh, God.
There were people literally leaving the golf course.
Yeah.
We were teeing off on 10. There were some guys riding back toward us. Like,
I hope they weren't spiritually leaving. I thought.
They were
Their
traveling.
corporal being was.
They're traveling back at us. I thought they left a club or something. That happens all the time. And I was like, "You guys leave a club? What's up?" And they're like, "No, we're leaving. This is miserable. Like, they were like in the fairway on 10 and just said, enough's enough. we're going back to the clubhouse." So that kind of hot that's not fun. But I can play golf year round here. I can play golf 12 months a year. You can't do that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Can't.
So I would prefer this to that, if only because I can be on the golf course more often.
I like my winter. I like my snow. I like my skiing. All right, 2 more questions. Ryan in Richmond, Virginia pens us and says, first off, I have to say how much I love the pod. One of the few out there where I learn a ton, but also crack up at the dumbest things too. You don't say, Ryan. This is for Norlander, although if Parish has thoughts, please don't hold back. Curious if you've listened to any of Goose, and if so, what your thoughts are. Always love when you drop your favorite music in a podcast. I will answer that, but I did send Parish a note on this, asking him specifically not to look it up. Before you saw this question, had you ever heard of the band Goose?
I have not. Where would I know Goose from?
You wouldn't necessarily. If I say the band Goose, what would be your guess is their closest comparison? Period. Like, if you just guess the band, what do you think is their closest comparison?
I don't know. Blink 182.
Okay.
I don't know.
Samsonite. I was way off. No, the answer would be another band named after an animal, although with improper spelling. Fish. Goose is a jam band who, coincidentally enough, formed 10 years ago in Norwalk, Connecticut. They formed in Norwalk when you and I were doing this podcast when I lived in Norwalk. And me and my buddy, who I play occasional gigs with, we always marvel at the fact that these guys were playing around the area, and we don't remember one time, not to say they didn't do it, we just never saw or heard about them playing in the area. And now they have ascended to a level where, they're a couple tiers below Fish, but they've played Red Rocks, they're on their way to playing big arenas and all that good stuff there. So to the question, I appreciate it. Goose just played here in Connecticut last weekend, but I could not go. Haven't seen them in concert yet. I do like Drip Field. It is a good record. If you're a Sirius XM subscriber, the Spectrum Channel 28 will occasionally drop in a little bit of Goose. Talented dudes. They have their backlash fan base as well, because a lot of people that love Fish and Humphreys McGee, they're kind of they're not quite into Goose. There's actually now mock T-shirts going around. They're like, yeah, I've heard the new Goose, but I'm not quite all the way there yet. Not quite sold on Goose. It's actually kind of a funny thing. But they are a jam band. They're all late 20s, early 30s. One of my good buddies actually happens to know folks in the band there. So they're good stuff. I appreciate
I would have probably been aware of them if they formed in my early 20s as opposed to my late 30s. Because I do have a lot of friends who are into the jam band scene, like Widespread Panic and Fish, and they go to they do all the shows and seen them 87 times and remember when they opened with and all that stuff.
They are they've opened up for Dead and Company and Bob Weir's jammed with them, and Trey Anastasia's jammed with them. So they're on the up and coming without a doubt, and pretty intriguing. But Connecticut, to have a band kind of come out of Norwalk, Connecticut like this is kind of wild. But they're,
to your point about you don't remember them playing, it is interesting how in this today you can become a star in music without ever really even playing.
Yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo, this blew my mind. She had a #1 album before she had ever played a concert.
That's crazy.
She had never been on stage to play her own songs ever. By the time she played Driver's License for a crowd for the first time, it was already the biggest song in the world. That's insane to me.
That's why.
The biggest songs in the world. How many times? And I'm just making something up. But how many times did Pearl Jam play Even Flow on stage before you ever or I ever heard Even Flow?
That's a good question. I don't know. It would so happen with some of that stuff. Vetter actually wrote the demos, and we don't have to go back. But I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. To my favorite band, DMB would have played Ants Marching on stage to a crowd, to frat houses. They would have played that song, or what would you say? They would have played it literally hundreds of times live in concert before the American public ever really heard it on the radio.
And Olivia Rodrigo wrote Driver's License, recorded Driver's License. It was the #1 song in the world, and she had never performed it for a crowd. She had never, I think you could find it on YouTube. It was some Las Vegas festival. She was like, "This is my first ever concert." First ever concert was like some big festival. She's got the number one song in the world. Yeah.
Although didn't Bieber had like a something he did on YouTube and Usher found him and that's how Bieber got big?
And I think Billie Eilish is similar in the sense that she was just making songs. And there's the what's the guy name that just did it's the biggest song in the world for the past month. Oh my God, what is it? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. Please continue. I'm sure the audience loves this.
What is the name of that song? Let me just find Billboard Hot 100 list or something. But this guy just made a song, and he's just like you think my Wikipedia page has nothing on it? You should see this, fellas.
I'm going Billboard. Post Malone's one.
$1 Million Baby, Tommy Richmond. You haven't heard that yet?
Right now. No, haven't heard it. But
okay, so this song just kept popping up everywhere. All right, I just couldn't avoid it. Sirius XM anywhere. And I'm like, who is Tommy Richmond? How do I not? I was like, I was finally like, well, it finally happened. We reached the point where I'm too old. I don't know who these people are anroanymore. And it turns out I was like, oh, here we go. Turns out nobody knows who Tommy Richmond is because he was a nobody.
I thought you were about to tell me this is an AI artist.
No. It's a real dude, and he like made this song, and it's like right up there with "Not Like Us" is like song of the summer. I don't know how this happened, other than he just made a song and it became the biggest song in the world.
Is there an artist or an album or two that you've been listening to in the past spring or summer that email want to know what we were listening to? So
well, the Kendrick stuff all summer.
Kendrick stuff, of course.
It's been amazing. And it actually has made me go back and revisit old Kendrick stuff. And so I've a lot of Kendrick Lamar stuff lately. The new Zach Bryan album, I'm giving Zach Bryan I'm just fascinated by how did he become this?
Yeah, I gave it a listen. Not totally up my alley, but it's gotten some buzz.
Yeah, there was a time where I was like really into it. Just give me a songwriter and a guitar, man, and that's great. Like, give me a great Whiskey Town album or Ryan Adams album, whatever. And I was just like, how'd this guy go to he's filling up stadiums now? Yeah. Like, what happened? How'd this happen? So I listened to it. I could appreciate it. I don't he's obviously talented. But I've listened to a lot of Zach Bryan just because I'm trying to understand how did this guy become this big? The new Megan Thee Stallion album, it's fun. It came out I think last week maybe. That was fun this weekend. The Beyonce album I've listened to a bunch. Early in the year I listened to that Vultures album a lot with Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign. I actually liked it. I thought it was a little too much, but there's tracks on it that I liked. So that kind of stuff, I probably even, I've listened to more hip hop than I listen to anything at this point in my life.
The new Pearl Jam record, Dark Matter, is actually pretty solid. Better than I thought it would be. I listened to it. I didn't go back to it, but I gave it a spin. It's good actually. That got better on me with repeated listens there. It's better than I thought it would be. I listened to it I was like, I don't know, and then it's grown on me. Maggie Rogers, Don't Forget Me, new album that I like. Kamasi Washington put out an album called Fearless Movement. Now you gotta want to lock in for 90 minutes, but I am all in on Kamasi Washington stuff. Guster put out a new record, Ooh La La, which is I'd say probably their toughest point of entry of any album that they have, but I do like it. First side's particularly strong, and then nothing new. I've been on a huge Muse kick as of late, and just kind of going back through that discography. But I know people appreciate the music talk. That's a little bit of what we've been getting into. I promised an efficient episode, and we're at 80 minutes. We have one more question, more like a recommendation. I thought it was intriguing. Go ahead, GP.
It comes from Pat, Philly. Wants to try an experiment. He said, I'd love it if you guys did a commentary of the Devin Downey game. Might be bad for audio peeps, but the YouTube episode would be pure entertainment. Just an idea for a summer slow news week. Keep up the good work. Not even a South Carolina fan, just a longtime listener. Appreciate that. I will say, you take I think what he's suggesting is like a play-by-play type thing.
So basically, I think in some elements of podcasting out there are these things called watch-alongs where, people like to hear their podcasters talk about stuff. And sometimes people literally watch people watch along and talk about a movie they love or whatever. And so he's suggesting this with the Devin Downey game. It's a fascinating idea.
Well, I do this with, that's the thing. I've probably been listening to Kendrick Lamar more than anything else. And the second thing I've been listening to more than anything else is reactions to Kendrick Lamar songs.
Right.
Like, and so I guess and those are hilarious.
Well,
those
this would
fun.
be more like we would go back and experience it in real time and talk about whatever and just kind of stream of consciousness stuff. This is a wonderful idea. However, and I would actually be open to it. I don't know if GP would or not. And yes, this would basically have to be for YouTube only because you can't really replicate the experience for audio. I looked, the full game is not on YouTube, which actually kind of surprised me because lest you forget, Kentucky was the undefeated #1 team in the country, seemingly on the way to the Final Four in Calipari's first year. And little Devin Downey came out of nowhere and turned the sport upside down on one late January night in 2010. The full game is not available on YouTube. So even if we wanted to do this, I don't think we have the capacity to do it right now, but I do like the idea.
Yeah. I'd be open to it. It just seems like, we'd probably get in. I think it'd be fun right up until a point where it's like there's 13 minutes of nothing happening.
No, that's when Downey gets going. What are you talking about? That's when he starts getting hot.
That's when I'd tell you more about that new Megan Thee Stallion album.
That does remind me, by the way, as we get out of here. We're in the midst of a slow stretch. We will have another slow stretch in the off season. We did have someone recommend we do a hot takes episode. You were kind of wishy-washy on that, but the one you said you would do, and maybe this is for like mid-September when football is here and we don't have a lot of college hoops news. We should do the Jeopardy style trivia time episode. You poo-pooed it to start, and then we started talking about it on the last Mailbag episode, and 90 seconds later, you're like, maybe we'll do this. So in absence of another Mailbag, maybe we try and do one of those things. I think there's fun potential. Come on.
The problem is I got a whole Twitter feed of people calling me an idiot. I don't already.
This is a safe space.
I don't need to prove it to them.
No, this is a safe
in a
space.
Jeopardy style. Like the last thing I need people actually knowing is that I don't know anything.
You just told them. So what does it matter now? The secret's out. Like,
no, I just don't. I'm terrible at like trivia competitions. They used to always try to make me play them on radio. They'd be like, you want to do trivia? I was like, no, I don't know anything. I know what I need to know for today. And then I get rid of all of it and I start fresh. I fill up my head with new stuff for today and I start fresh tomorrow. But I'm not good at just carrying around stuff. I don't remember things.
Well, we'll see. Otherwise, it's another Mailbag, but these Mailbags aren't so bad, right?
I mean, the efficient ones aren't.
Well, this wasn't the most efficient. I have one more thing, and then we're out.
Oh, my God.
This isn't a question, but it's correspondence, and I figured you'd have an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
I saved it for the back end instead of the top, and then we'll be out here, I promise. So a guy named Asir, he's from San Diego, and he wrote about Bill Walton. So Bill Walton passed in June, obviously, and then there was an episode that I was on because I was traveling, coincidentally, to L.A. You talked about him, and then you traveled to L.A., and I was back, and then I talked about him. And when I talked about him on that episode with, I guess it would have been Boone. I can't remember. I said UCLA should be taking this moment now and seeing like this immense widespread response to the death of Bill Walton and how much he meant to the sports world, basketball and beyond, transcended it. And, I went to the campus and there's no statue. There's nothing. They should be doing this. Not only should they be doing this, but like you have the two best players in the history of the sport. You should be erecting a statue for Kareem and Walton and planning for that like tomorrow. And Asir wrote, he said, I heard your segment today on the statues needed at UCLA. As a decently recent UCLA alumnus who worked in the athletic department as a student, I couldn't agree more. I just wanted to say that what I was always told when I was asked over the years was it was a directive from the central campus administration that they didn't want statues of humans on campus after wooden. UCLA is hiring a new chancellor starting this summer, so perhaps that policy will change, and I certainly hope Kareem and Bill are properly honored. The open plaza to the east side of Poly in between the Hall of Fame building will always felt like a good place to have statues, not just for Kareem and Bill. And then this is the kicker, he said, but Arthur Ashe and Jackie Robinson. What are we waiting for, UCLA? Like, wooden is incredible. Don't get me wrong, but you're telling me you don't have the space, time, thought, consideration to honor Arthur Ashe and Jackie Robinson, let alone Bill Walton and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? So it blows my mind. I didn't realize this was the case, but Asir sent a nice long email, and I thought you'd be stunned by that. So imagine having Jackie Robinson counted among your alumni, and you don't want to honor the dude with the statue. That is beyond me.
Every major league franchise honors Jackie Robinson, but UCLA won't do it.
What are we doing?
Not to mention Reeves Nelson.
Exactly. We know Cronin's getting a statue.
We know Cronin's getting a statue. A little one.
But come on, what are we doing here? Like, hopefully that policy changes. The Arthur Ashe and Jackie Robinson can't be properly honored. Like, that's just Just wild to me. So that was good correspondence. I wanted to acknowledge it. And the fact that UCLA has like this on, we did it for Wooden, and that's it. That's it. Come on. What are we doing here?
Yeah. I'm with you. I like statues.
Yeah. Statues and sushi rolls. That's what we do.
That's
all right. That's
all
a show.
want. All right. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina, Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching and listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. Bill Walton, I trust, one of us. By the way, that whole us and them thing, that really took off. I'm not trying to take credit for it, but that really.
They're not like us. It really did.
It really took
Come on.
off. I mean, I don't think I did.
Why isn't that on your Wikipedia page?
I'm not asking for credit, but if somebody wanted to go into my Wikipedia page and put inspired the Night Like Us movement of the summer of 2024, I would accept that. I would.
Don't think that, by the way, don't think that's what Kendrick Lamar is referring to, but regardless, we'll take it whatever we can get.
Yeah, the truth is Kendrick Lamar is basically saying Drake is a lot like me and you.
Okay.
In some ways. Yeah. It's tough out there. It's tough out there. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you can subscribe to podcasts. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.